you hungry, kitty? Huh? You're always hungry. That's why you're so fat. And I'm covered in cat hair. Thanks, Chuck. I'm also getting yelled at to feed the cats. Hey everyone, it's Kayla from KJ and Her Books, and today I am back with another video. So today's video I will be talking about the 10 classics that I would love to get to this year. I'm the kind of person who likes to collect classics and it takes me forever to read them. I have so many on my list to read and I usually try and read one every month or so. But it can be quite difficult, especially when you're in a reading slump or you're really just not in the mood to read them, because they can be so hard to get into. They can be very difficult to read. Not everybody has to read them, but I feel like I love collecting them so much that I really need to read them as well. And I want to read these stories. I may know them from beginning to end, but it's still something different to actually read it for yourself rather than just hear about it or watch an adaptation. So I have a lovely list today that I'm going to go through. It'd be nice if I could at least read one every month, but who knows, especially when I have some super long ones on this list as well. So we're just going to have to see how my brain goes this year. And most of you know these stories anyway, so I'm not going to go into too much depth with them. They're classics. There's a reason why they're classics. So the first one that I have, I've mentioned a couple of times already, and that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I have wanted to read this for so long and I just kept putting off actually buying it. It was only up until recently that I got a copy in a book box and I've just wanted to read it. It's so magical and creative, and for some reason I just have not gotten to it yet. It's definitely on the list of books that I would love to read. It's short and it's quick and it's just something that I feel like I should have read already by now, but I haven't. The next one is another one that I am ashamed to say I haven't read, mostly because I never actually got the chance to read it in school. I still haven't seen the movie. I know the story, but I've not yet read it. I don't know why. I've had it sitting on my shelf for ages and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And that is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. You guys, majority of you guys will know what this story is about. It's definitely a very emotional story and I feel like a lot of you learnt about it and read it in school, but it just never came up in school for me at all. And even after school, when I was getting back into reading lots of books and collecting classics, I just never picked this one up. I don't know why, but I am ashamed I haven't read it yet. I feel like it's one of the books that should be on everybody's list of books to read. It's definitely on my list of books to read, like a bucket list kind of thing for books. But yes, I don't know why I haven't read it yet. But hopefully this year will be the year that I read To Kill a Mockingbird. The next one is another one in that sort of same category where it's like emotional and something that people may have learned or read in school. And that is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I have heard so much about this growing up and I just never read it. And I also hadn't owned it up until recently as well, because the cover that I kept getting in the bookstore was just hideous, which is this one by the way, and I could never find the right cover. And then I finally just decided, you know what, who cares about the cover, it's still the same damn story, I'm just gonna get it anyway. So I did. I'm not happy with the cover. It's probably one of the worst covers that I've seen, but at least I own the book and that was the main reason for it, so I could read it. And I really hope I get to this one. It's definitely one that's been on my mind and on my list for so long that I needed to get to, and hopefully 2020 will be the year for it. The next one is another one that was probably one of the first classics other than Pride and Prejudice that I ever purchased, and it's always been on my list of books to read during Halloween and I just never get to it. I'm never in the mood for it, and that is Dracula by Bram Stoker. I have tried many times to read this and I still haven't gotten to it. I put it on my list every year for Halloween, and this year will be the year that I read it for Halloween. Crossing my fingers, crossing my fingers. So hopefully I will get to this year. 2020 will be the year that I finally read Dracula. Of course, 2020 is going to be the year that I finally read all of these classics. One can hope. The next one is one of the more longer ones that I have on this list, but it's one that has been recommended to me by Ashley. She has read it, she loved it. She said it's a very easy classic to get into. It's very easy to read, which is surprising considering the length and the author. And that is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I have had this for ages, and every time I go into the bookstore I think, wait a second, do I have The Count of Monte Cristo? I keep forgetting that I own the bloody book, but I do. And it's definitely one I've been wanting to read for ages as well, but it's so intimidating because of how long it is. Like, it's actually not as long as I would have thought, but it's only almost 900 pages long, and it's just a very chunky book. But according to Ashley, it's very quick to get through. It's very easy compared to some classics to read, and she really enjoyed it. So I trust her judgment, and I would love to get to this. It'll probably take me longer than a month to get through it, but we'll see. It's definitely one that I've been wanting to read for some time. The next one is another one that I believe a lot of people read in school. I unfortunately did not. We read all sorts of different ones, but we never read a lot of classics. But this is one that a lot of people have read and know about and talk about even to this day, and that is 1984 by George Orwell. I know so much about this, and yet I still haven't read it. It's not even that long. It's got an amazing story to it, a very confronting story, but it's definitely one that I feel like I should get to this year. I feel like this is the year to read 1984. Just because of everything that's going on in the world at the moment. It's almost like The Handmaid's Tale in a way. It's very, very similar to our current state of government, and a lot of people have read and recommended this, so why not give it a try? It's 2020. It's about time I read 1984. The next one I have is probably one of the more shorter ones that I have on my list. It's also one of the more darker ones on my list, and that is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I don't know why I haven't read this yet. I think I did try to read it on the Kindle, but I just wasn't in the mood. Plus, I can't read classics in ebook form, or not so much audio form either. I feel like I need to have the physical book in front of me. It's just easier, and I like it better that way. But yes, Wuthering Heights has definitely been on my list for ages. It has been recommended by so many people. So many people enjoyed it. It just sounds like a dark and creepy story that I may need coming up to Halloween as well. So I don't know when I'm going to read it, but it's definitely a shorter one, so I can't imagine it'll take me too long to get through it. I don't know, but it's definitely one that I would love to have read by the end of this year. Another one I've got is not just a recent purchase, but also one that's recently been bumped up on my list, and that is Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. So Ashley had also started reading this book as well. She was reading from it when we were doing our book game challenge thing that we were doing in one of our last videos together, and she was really enjoying it. The way she was describing it to me, because I cannot for the life of me remember much about the movie at all, but the way she was describing it to me just made me more excited to read it, because I love reading anything that's set in the South, like The Help. The Help was amazing. I loved that movie, and I love the book, and I love the way that it's written, how they talk, and I believe this one is the same. It also has like their sort of slang and their phrases that they say, and I love these kinds of stories as well, where it's sort of like growing up with them in a way and like dealing with all of their drama. So I feel like I would really, really enjoy this. It's another really long one. I think it might actually be longer than The Count of Monte Cristo. Actually, yeah, so it's over 900 pages. It's almost 1,000, so it's definitely longer than The Count of Monte Cristo. But I feel like I'd probably enjoy this more so. Like, I feel like this is going to be one of the first ones for 2020 that I might get into. Who knows? But it's definitely one I really, really, really want to read, because I do remember the story. I just don't remember too much of it, because I had seen the movie and that was quite a long time ago. I think the main thing that makes me want to read this is the setting, most likely. The second last one I have on my list is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. So I have two of the Bronte sisters on my list. And of course, I had to add Jane Eyre. I did try and read Jane Eyre last year, or I was going to, but I just never got around to it because last year was pretty hopeless for my reading, as I've mentioned. So trying to read a classic was just absolutely hopeless. But Jane Eyre is definitely one that I have been wanting to read, and I keep trying to read and I just never get around to it. But it's just a story that I feel like I need to finally get to and finally understand more about it. So it's definitely on my list for this year. And the last one is another one that has recently been bumped up on my list as well, and definitely at the top of the books that I want to start reading first, and that is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This has been bumped up on my list ever since I watched the movie adaptation fairly recently. I loved it so much. So before I'd seen the movie, I hadn't seen any other adaptations. I just somehow knew the story of Little Women. So when I went into the movie, I didn't have much of an idea. Like, I knew bits and pieces of the storylines, but I didn't know the story as a whole or how it ended or like certain things in between. But it's definitely one that I have been wanting to read for a while. It just never got bumped up higher enough on my list, but it's definitely one that I would like to get to because I loved the movie so much, and it made me love the characters and it made me want to read it so much more than I had originally. So it's definitely one that I think I'm going to add to the very top of my list. Not only is it a beautiful story, but it's also a beautiful cover as well. Like, this one and Jane Eyre are just beautiful classics. I love the Knickerbocker Classics editions. They are gorgeous. But anyway, Little Women is definitely one that I would like to read as soon as I possibly can this year. We'll see how I go, especially with the Polathon coming up. But yeah, it's a story that I know so much about and never actually read it. So I'm going to add it to the top of my list. So I think the first ones I'm probably going to try and get to are maybe Little Women or Gone with the Wind. Not too sure yet, but I think they're definitely my choices. And then I am also probably going to add Wuthering Heights and 1984 to the top of the list. So it could change, but Little Women and Gone with the Wind are definitely at the very top. Well, there you have it, guys. They are the classics that I would love to get to in 2020. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you think of them and what you think I should maybe start with to start my year off well with the classics. And also how you read your classics. Are you just one of those people that can constantly read them and it doesn't really bother you? Like, it's very easy for you to get into them? Or are you one of those people that you have to set aside strict time to read the classics, like one per month or like a set of pages each month as you go along? I'm just curious. But thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I will talk to you in the next one. Bye!